Hello, welcome to Ontoor Solutions. Today we are starting our series of uh, Ontoor concepts, which will basically concern around Oracle and orclapex. So our first episode will be for interactive grid concepts, in which I'll just give you a little background. Why did we, plan this? Why are we doing this? Number one, since the Apex team or Oracle just announces the Apex items as a legacy, so right now the API is designated as legacy. So after this, I have stopped using Apex underscore item in our interactive reports to make those IRs as editable. So instead of interactive reports making those editable, we should move to the new component introduced in Apex 5.1, which is interactive grid. Interactive grid has been evolved over the years. Today, it has documented APIs. It has all those possible features like locking rows and everything. So we'll go one by one. Number one, why do we need the interactive grids? Number one thing which should come in the mind first, it is like whenever you need multiple row updates or multiple row DML operation, I should say. In that scenario, you need something similar to the tabular forms, which was early releases in the Apex 5. It was just Oracle stopped using it and introduced the interactive grid. So to support the multi-row insert updates and deletes, interactive grids are the best suit. Let's see one by one how can we create and how can we do all those other DML operations on top of the interactive grid. How to create? There are two ways to create interactive grids. Number one, you can go to the create page, and where you can select the interactive report page type, and then you can select interactive grid, where you can simply create the interactive grid. Let's see, we have a sample grid using the I'm gonna have the breadcrumb as well. So let's have the navigation entry to help to navigate, and what's the moment it is loading here. So on the data source, we have three kind of types we do have, which is number one, local database, number two, REST enabled SQL services, and we have a REST data sources. So under the table owner, you need to select your schema, and next option asked for table source. So I'm gonna get the sample table which we have as an EMP table. On top of EMP table, I'm gonna create this. You can also allow enable editing at very first, or we can do this in the later phases. So I'm gonna do it later to show how similar it is to IR and how can we move it further. So let's create the interactive grid. So that's the number one way to create. So right now on the page, including the page, I must say, we have the interactive grid, which says a type as interactive grid. And if you run this on the page, you will see there is a report kind of a structure which has a multi-row or multi-column. You have the one master search box. You have the action menu, which consists of all the possible, I think, options we have available in our interactive reports. All are there, including the data sort and aggregation. You have the formats, and you can also basically put some selections, and you can deselect or select some columns from the grid. It's all of the user perspective. So now if you try to click on any cell, you cannot basically edit or do anything. This is in read only mode. So first thing which comes in our mind, so how can we move those interactive grids as like editable interactive grids? So let's go to the interactive grid, which is the number one is the edit. So on top of this, you have enabled switch option. You just need to enable it, and once you enable it, you will see couple of options. Number one, allowed operations, under which we have add row, update row, delete row. So all three options, which is like kind of DML operations, and we can use them. And other options, if you see allowed row operations column, so you can basically use those. We'll come up on that later phases. And you can use last update type, so add row if empty. So all of these will come in later phases, but at this time, for this particular episode, we will just see how can we simply create interactive grids and move further with the basic checks like editing or like putting authorization or something. So we'll see. So under the editing, we have enabled it and we are saving it. And if you run this, so after running this, you will see the grid is editable. And why I'm saying this editable, because I can see the edit button, I can see the save button, and I can see the add row button. So if I try to modify the existing data and try to save it, so I can save this properly, so data has been saved. Or if I just wanted to insert the data, so I can simply do that as well. Let's say you know another one testing and another one dummy 2, and if I save this, so you can say I can also add the rows. You can refresh it over and over, so you can see all those two rows I have created. We can see them. Now see which operation, which DML operation we want to allow to some people, like who can edit, who can save, and who can add. So let's quickly go to the page designer to see how can we customize that option. You scroll down to the second option we have under the attributes. It's edit authorization, under which we have add, update, and delete. So we can create authorization in the application, and then we can use them against all the DML operations. So under if you select the authorization for add operation, or to update operation, to delete operation, only those authorized user are allowed to do the add, update, and delete on this particular grid. So that's the option here. All right, now look for the other options of the interactive grid. Under the performance, you can enable the lazy loading. It says basically your grid will be loaded first and then data will start loading. So this option does the same thing. Under the help text also, if you read out, so it's like when you lazy load is specified, the page is rendered immediately, and then showing an empty region, then start rendering the the grid and its data. Under the appearances, show null as value. If you want to show null, if you have the null value in the cell, you can simply put hyphen, or if there are number fields, so you can put 0. But kind of for null values, we can say, okay, let's move for this one hyphen. But since if you don't want to mess up, like you want to show the clean cell, if there is no value there, you can use the null value as just a blank field. Next option we have is in select first row. So until this is enabled, you can see the first row is always selected. So if you unselect this part and run it, so you will see that the first row is not selected while after the grid is loaded. So that's the thing. If you don't want to show the first row selected, you can just deselect this. Pagination. Under the pagination, we can have a scrolling effect, which is we are anyway doing scrolling. If you want to see the page, so just to select this, and then if you reload this part, so you see this is fixed to the page right now. We are not kind of scrolling it, and all the pagination is moved to like a page level, not on this scrolling effect. By default you will see 12 rows. So far I can see 12 rows, and I need to just click on the pagination. I can simply move further one page to another, within the grid. So that's the effect when you move the pagination type scroll to page. So I'll move to the scroll back, because it gives the users the ability to just scroll and see the data. Maybe user doesn't need to click on the pagination. Show total count row. This is like on the first performance aspect. Like if you don't want to show the total row count, you can disable it, and grid won't run the count command on top of the grid, on top of the when query runs. And if you just show this as a total, you run it, so you can simply run total rows. So that's what we have as in the customization in the pagination. When there is no data found, you can say some custom message. So that's also a flexible thing, like our interactive reports we have. We can also use items and all those substitution variables of here. So it is like supporting everything. Under the toolbar, if you don't want to show the toolbar, let's test the first thing first. Under the toolbar, you see the grid is now just grid. You can see all the column headers, all the rows, but there is no toolbar. If you hang on, if you just enable the toolbar, so it is back in the action. You can see the toolbar again with the search item and action menu, edit, save, and add row buttons. We can also customize each and every component of the toolbar. Like if you do want to show the search column selection, so the search box will, yeah, we cannot select any column on top of like these columns is selected in the interactive grid. Like here I'll show you first thing when we have the columns available. So we can now search on the employee name column. It's Blake actually. Blake. Okay, let me just get rid of everything. Yeah, so I'm saying it's Blake. I can see the Blake filter, but if you just disable the search column selection, you won't be able to see this option. So that is completely gone, and now you can just you need to put your text, and you can hit go. Signal goes to if you don't want to show the search field, and your search field will be gone from the action menu, from the toolbar basically. It starts with the action menu. So all goes with action menu. You can disable reset button, you can remove the save button. So for timing, let's have everything. So all of the component available in the toolbar are customizable. We can remove them whenever they are not needed. And if you want to change the label of the add row button, so I'm gonna say add employee. Let's have init cap. So if I just run it as an employee, so I can see the add button label has been modified as add employee. So I can simply click there, and one fresh row I will have to update it to insert the values. So we can just, again, if I see test2, and let's say and I'm gonna say manager 2 sort of job, and I can run it, so it's getting saved. Furthermore, on the enable users, we have a save public reports. If we would like to, allow to say basically save the public reports to the all the users, we can enable it. And who can see those, we can customize that as well. But for now, let's not have it. I don't want to have those public reports in our interactive grid. Whatever we have provided to the users, they can basically visualize and use that report. Flashbacks, it's like when you want to see the backdate data, so that's kind of a flexibility what Oracle has provided in the Oracle database. On top of that same functionality, grid is providing the feature. You can see the data from the backward. You can define the chart views similar to the IR reports. You can simply have the chart views also in the sample in the inductive grids. Download functionality, it's pretty same if you want to allow users to download. So it's like under the action menu, you have the download functionality, and from the above provided options, format options, CSV, HTML, PDF, or Excel, you can have the download. And additional option, like if you want to send all of out of these option format options, you can choose any of these and send it as a kind of you say as an email attachment to your recipient, and you can also mark someone CC or BCC. So that's totally like a built-in native feature in the interactive grid. On top of download option, if that's enabled, so you can also customize that authorization. You can allow a set of users to download the interactive grid data, which format you want to allow them: CSV, HTML, PDF, Excel. Currently we have 4 formats. If you want to disable, for example, you don't want to show HTML data, so you can simply just deselect it, and when you see it, you will see like under the download section, your HTML will be gone. All right, move to the headings. Under the heading, similar to the integrated reports, we can use the heading as fixed to page, or we can fix to region as well. As we have in the integrated report, we just need to fix the kind of a region height. Let's say 400 pixel, I'm gonna say. So we can see our heading are fixed with the 400 pixels of height. You see this one, the height is being fixed now, and 30 rows we can see, and simply scroll it. So that's the feature as we have in IR. We can enable the icon views, we can enable the detail views. We'll come to all those things later. Now all those all these available options, we'll cover this thing later. Right now, let's focus on what behind the scene is running to update the interactive grids. For this, we need to move to processing, and we need to see the process. Yeah. So under process, you see the automatic created process, and in this process, we have name, which is totally customizable. You can change it to your choice. Type, we say it is interactive grid automatic row processing DMN, which is like it will manage everything by itself. Like whether you are doing edit, whether you are doing add, or you're doing deletions, so it will manage by itself. You just need to select the interactive grid selection, like which grid region you are going to update or doing all those DML. Under the setting, that's the crucial part. If you see, the target type is selected as region source, so whatever you have selected in the region source, which is say you are selecting on top of the table and the table name, so grid will consider it as just using as a region source to update. Like it will consider the primary key, whatever primary key you have selected. So since we have created it automatic, and the employee number has been marked as primary key based on the table setup, like whatever primary key table has, while creating the grid just automatically selects this, detects this first, and then it selects as a primary key. So under the settings, if you select the region source, so based on the region source and selected the primary key, it will basically uh, do the updating and all those GML operations. Now move to the next option, which is prevent lost updates and log rules. Labeled as yes, which means whenever you start editing the grid, for example, if I go to the second row and I started editing, so right now this row is locked. No other user can basically update this row until I release it. That's the definition of this lock row in this interactive grid. Second option, we say prevent lost updates when it's enabled, which means the moment I have clicked in the, like after editing and I've started typing, so this time this is being logged, but if I hit save and the moment the data initiated to the database to update, so it takes some time, kind of seconds, kind of a millisecond. So all those tiny milliseconds, although those tiny times has been marked as as a logged period to that particular transaction, which comes under the prevent lost update. No other user can modify those rows because Oracle just detects it like those rows have been already initiated to update, insert or delete. So that feature makes it in a use. Return primary keys after insert. Okay, it's like when you are adding rows and from the developer perspective, when you insert a row, you will get the primary key in the database, and when you insert the data in a table. Similar feature kind of you can have in the interactive grid. If you enable it, you will get the primary key back to the interactive grid after the successful insert. So now let's move for another option, what we can do, because this all we have discussed under the region source is just a very simple kind of a scenario where you have a table and you want to just do insert, update and delete without any logic or something. It's like a straightforward insert, update, delete, all those DML operations. But when you basically want to do basically on top of a table, that's also possible. You can just select the table and table/view, and you choose your parsing schema. If there are multiple schema, you can select from this drop down. I just have one parsing schema, so that's not allowed me. And you can just simply select your table with its name, and it will give you the same kind of a behavior that we were having with the region source. And third one, which is very useful, which is PL/SQL core. In this, we can, if you click on this PL/SQL code box and you see under the help, there is one sample code what Oracle team has provided. Let's focus on that part. Under this, we can write our custom logic. It gives our flexibility to indicate basically which row, what we are doing with that row. So it's the identifier. We have apex $row status, and it will give you when it's updating something. So it will give you as U when you are creating something, or say adding a row. So it will give you as a C, and when you're deleting a row, it will give you as a D. So all these three options you can perform on the grid, and this one identifier will give you those inputs like what we are doing at the point of hitting the save button. So we can write our custom code here. This feature is very helpful when you see you need to write something on top of your logic, like after inserting you need to do something else, after updating you need to do something else. So you can do with this one. The one thing we need to make sure, if you are returning a code, primary key or something, you can use that as well. Like after the insertion, we can basically return values to our interactive grid columns. So you select this one and simply all the features are pretty same. You can lock updates, you can lock your rows. So these two options, prevent lost update and lock rows, both are pretty much applicable on this kind of target type as well. All right, let's see another way of creating an interactive grid. It's like when you have your existing uh, page available and you want to create one grid on basically your existing page. So right, you just have to, you can go basically to components, page layout. Under this you will see the multiple region. So you need to select your interactive grid region and you can simply drag it to your page, or you can just go to your components, if you are on the updated version of the Apex. Otherwise you will go to the region and then you need to create a region. So I'm going to create a region, so which is by default has a static content. I'm going to say you need to change the region type to interactive grid. The moment you select the interactive grid type, you will see that it will ask you for the data source, which pretty same. You can change to local database. You can select the REST enabled SQL or REST data source. For this example, we'll take the REST. We'll take the local database, and further examples we'll go REST enabled SQL and REST data source number one. A table type, basically just a table / view, whatever you want, and table owner, and you need to just select the table name. So I'm gonna take a department for this instance. Yeah, for this instance, I'm gonna take the department. Already put place there, but I'm gonna use from the object browser. So it's department. If you want to select the row ID in the columns, I'll quickly go to the column. So there are 3 columns and you want to see the row ID as well. So you can simply enable the row ID, and that's it. You just save it and run it. You can see another interactive grid is available now, and it's very same when we have created the employee table grid. It was read only, so similarly I've created this one as read only. Let's move this to editable interactive grid. Just enable the under the attributes, go to edit and just enable the enabled switch and save and run it. So you will see that the interactive grid is enabled, as you can add or edit something, or you can remove as well, pretty similar to that. And if you focus on the similarities, it's like when you select the, you can see the department number as a primary key. It's being marked, so it is managing everything, all those processes. Although process basically would say is it is like that is something clear. So this process has been created on top of the second grid, and you can see under the editable region we have sample IG and second grid, 2 grids we can switch around. All the features we have already discussed. What it comes to the settings, you can have all the 3 options: table view, PL/SQL code, and what we can do under all those 3. So that's the second way of creating grids and managing everything, including the DML, and of course you can single view a row if you like, and you can move to the report view. So this action menu allows you to do many things. You can switch views, you can add row from here, you can duplicate whatever entry you have provided, and you can delete also. Initially it will mark as striked row, and then you have to just hit save and then post the changes to the database. And if you don't want, you can just simply refresh the row. You don't have to delete. So that's that. And I think that's what we have got for to grid basic concepts. In the next episode, we'll move for much of the advanced sections of the interactive grid back and forth. You will see we'll cover every aspects of the grid so that we don't have to use our interactive reports as an editable board, and we can leverage the grid features. Those are easy to use, easy to develop, and easy to maintain.